awesome. Welcome to GreyNoise Stormwatch by GreyNoise Intelligence. Each week we drop the latest info on what's happening at GreyNoise, take a look at a roundup of important and timely cybersecurity topics, and toss out some expert opinions and the occasional conspiracy theory. However, in a slight departure from the normal introduction today, I'm going to introduce everybody to the fresh Hades that I have been experiencing for the past month by introducing my co-hosts in a very interesting way.
Uh-oh.
Well,
this seems not concerning at all. Bluey!
Yeah, there you go. Hold on. Kimber! Okay.
Yay.
All right. All right, Kimber, what how has it been going? How's the storm, the snow and everything been dealing with you?
You know, today I woke up to bright sunny skies, a beautiful sunrise. The snow is melting. We're making it through winter over here in Utah.
So
it's
we
not
have
even the first month of winter.
It's not even the first month. Oh gosh, thanks for that, Glenn. Thanks for that, Glenn. Always with the great news for everybody, Glenn. Kimber, there's a theme. Like, this was not a planned theme. It was a theme that emerged from everything going on right now for the topics today. And the topic, there's an emerging theme of MFA, multi-factor authentication, needing it, using it. So do you use MFA everywhere, full disclosure, or if not, why not?
Bob, I feel like this question is kind of a security concern in itself.
Yeah, it's a trick question.
And I don't appreciate it, but I will say I use MFA on everything that it is clearly available on. Everything which prompts me to use MFA, I gladly sign up for.
Okay, fair enough. All right, we're gonna do the next one.
Oh no,
Emily. Okay. I gotta figure out how to stop this better. Like the StreamYard controls are the Overlord is way better at it than I am. Ashley is way better.
Yeah, I mean,
so again, I'm working on it. I'm also not in my normal habitat, which is no excuse for that. I'll use it. Have you experienced any of this inclement weather? But I'm mentioning the weather primarily because GreyNoise has been weather kid DOSed today. Like everyone with kids seems to have schools, daycare, everything closed because a little thing happened outside, like wet or whatever. So how is it down in the Georgia area?
So Atlanta is pretty much the same. It's about 30 degrees here. It rained a little bit overnight and all the schools are closed because we don't know how to handle. And I mean, to be fair, better safe than sorry, because we don't really do snow or ice well, even if it's a tiny little bit. So, but no, right now it's just kind of overcast outside and very windy.
Cool. So I know it's apparently a security nightmare question to ask you, but so do you use MFA everywhere and why not?
I'm going to confidently say no, I don't, just because I know there are some accounts that I don't have it set up on, that I've set up years ago and don't use or whatever. I feel like now I'm inviting scrutiny on all of my accounts. Please don't hack me. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah, I would agree with Kimber. Places that obviously prompt it or feel important in some way. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Fair enough. All right, we'll see if I can do this right this time. Glenn, how often do you think about the Roman Empire?
We already did this last week.
No, we didn't. We did something else last week.
I mean, it's probably once a week.
Name a Roman emperor.
What?
I don't know. Caesar? Is that Roman? No, that's Greek. No, that's Roman.
Why do you think about the Roman Empire once a week?
It's about the infrastructure, actually. Anytime I just start thinking about, so I have this fascination with logistics and how things get from point A to point B and all this. So you just think about water, which I have a frozen pipe right now. So that's cool. I love thinking about how
actually weather report. What is it like in the balmy state of Texas?
It was, I think it got down to 7 last night. The wind chill was below 0. It's cold. It's sunny today though, so things should start thawing out, even though it's still going to be below freezing all day. But
Have you ever practiced the wonderful, I believe it's like Scandinavian, it's one of those very like Nordic regions where they do luften, where you open up all the windows in the winter and cool down the house and like get fresh air in after having it all like heated and no, I'm just meant stairs. You've never
Why
That
would
sounds
that-
horrible.
no.
I'm cold thinking about it.
Oh, we regularly open the windows in the winter, Kimber, up in Maine. Like seriously,
It's-
just to get some really clean, fresh air in. Are you kidding? Yeah, it's amazing.
It was
Yeah.
14 degrees here this morning, a temperature that I truly do not experience often as a Arizonan. And every morning I open up my windows to like do some lufting, as it were, and it's really nice.
Interesting.
I'm not sure. I heard the 4 degrees, and that's what I thought of.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair though, like, I mean, thankfully my house isn't that old, but it has like it pulls in fresh air on its own like every hour or something. I don't know. So
Try the luften, Glenn.
Yeah, you
Just-
got to do it. You open all the windows. It's actually really refreshing. It gets all the. It's just great.
it's
It really
currently
is.
11 outside. Why?
I'm
would I do
intrigued
that?
though. Like I kind of want to
Yeah.
try this now.
Why don't I just go
Yeah.
outside?
because
No,
that's
it-
not your
Bring the
house.
outside.
Yeah, it
inside.
freshens the air and you get a whole. It's just Glenn, just try
It's
it.
invigorating. It's like a cold plunge, but in your home.
Like a polar air plunge?
You're not selling
it's
it. That
totally
doesn't sell it.
It's what everybody did in the Roman Empire. Come on, dude.
Oh gosh.
We brought
I
it full
feel- I feel targeted. What is in your hand?
I'm gonna.
Is
do-
that a Furby? No.
Oh my
No
goodness.
shade, Bluey.
It's
Oh
also
my
not playing
gosh.
anymore, but that's all right. I'm not gonna.
That's
I'm done with
adorable.
Movie sound effects. This is my wife, aka Mima for the kids, made this for number 2.1.
my
Is making
gosh.
another. She's making the owl for number 2.2. There's an owl in Bluey. If anyone doesn't know Bluey,
I've
Well,
not seen
this-
Bluey.
now-
You've
Bluey
not
cat.
seen Bluey?
No.
It's really cute.
You,
I have
you-
no
you-
kids. I
I don't
no,
either.
dude. You don't need kids
I'm
to
an
watch
adult.
Bluey, dude.
Glenn,
It's
you lead
amazing.
the research team.
Yeah,
They will appreciate it.
all right.
yeah.
Really,
I
every
got
single
homework.
one of them. If you're able to talk Bluey with them,
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah, it's also it's really good. Like they do a really great job with the series.
I'm finishing up Rick and Morty right now, which by the way, Bob is Rick. Full stop.
yeah.
Minus some of the language. Bob is absolutely Rick.
Hopefully minus all of the language, I guess. But okay, I don't
Does that make you Morty?
Oh god.
know. Oh, man.
Probably.
I guess I might need to watch this show. I've never actually seen Rick and Morty. I feel really bad right now.
You can
Making this all possible, and the only reason why it goes even remotely as smoothly as it does, despite my ineptitude with the actual like StreamYard thingy, is our amazing Overwatch. Ashley, I'm not asking you any questions, Ashley. I just want to know how you doing. I need the hard questions. Just how you doing today, Ashley? We have to wait for Ashley to type because she's not ready for me to actually ask these questions.
One of these.
While we wait, hey Bob, yeah, I do use MFA. Thanks for asking.
I knew you used MFA, Glenn. I just made that assumption because like you seem to be one of those follow the rules kind of guys, you know.
Ashley says cold.
Yeah. I am with Kimber on this one. I use it. Well, actually, I'm with Kimber, but a little bit. I have one more ad to do. So I don't use it everywhere. I use it only where it's important. But I also can't use it where it's not available. And right now, there's still a handful of very major corporations that charge you
Okay.
extra if you want to use MFA to protect your account. So like to Hades
Was-
with all of you.
I hate this so much.
This-
This is
A Twitter dunk? Was this a roundabout Twitter dunk?
A little bit. A little bit. X dunk maybe a little bit. But yeah. So like I just if you're an organization and you charge for MFA, many plagues should be visited upon your executive staff.
Also, I'd love to see the cost benefit analysis on charging for MFA for the company.
we should do a whole episode about this because
Okay.
man, do I have thoughts about account takeovers and MFA and
I think if we can find someone to bring on that does this more for a living than we do, we can absolutely do that. So if you're listening or know someone and you're listening and know someone that does this for a living more than we do,
We need
Please
someone
bring
from
them
like
on, 'cause-
Uber or somewhere that's like DoorDash, like somewhere that's like where it's a
how about a company that doesn't actually abuse its workforce? Maybe, Glenn.
If you can info
What-
down below,
Can you
that-
find one?
Oh yeah, any hot takes today are mine. By the way, everyone listening, all companies listening, any lawyers that want to, you just contact me. It's fine. It's all right.
This weather's got everybody spicy, which is ironic.
Yeah, it does. So, I mean, this is 2024, along with all the other stuff going on. We actually have a volcano erupting for a second time, and this time destroying a beautiful town in Iceland, which is horrible. It's one of the pictures you see on the left if you're going to look at the slides. And the other one is, now my state got hammered really hard by the rains the other week, and a lot of places are pretty much just things you can kayak in. I posted a couple of things on social media. This is a picture of people kayaking in Portland, Maine, like, and not like in the sea, like on the streets in Portland, Maine. So that's been great. And I think Bangor Daily News has summed up 2024 perfectly for us, which is, it is a perfect storm of everything horrible. This is 2024 in a nutshell. May use this as the tagline for the podcast for the remainder of the year.
Is Bangor a city? Or
Bangor is this? Yes, it is a city
Okay.
in England, and it's at least you pronounced it correctly. Thank you. Not everything is horrible though. This is a picture of my brand new grandson, Ezekiel, and he is amazing. I got to hold him all day yesterday. I'm in seventh heaven. It's awesome, and he'll be torturing me with Bluey when he gets a little older. We do have a podcast, so folks that are that want to just tune out now, please don't. But if you could, if you want, you can watch us on video demand, or you could do the podcast. But if you hang, you can heckle or provide commentary, because we're going to talk about MFA. You probably have opinions. I just want to talk about, yeah. We've already lost 10 viewers, so like I probably should the baby picture up first. We'll see what's going on. 11 viewers. So we're going to start off. We have good news. We don't always have good news besides my grandson being born. The Ukrainians keep hitting out of the park. They're probably doing more for cyber than like lots of other organizations on the planet are. They have some vested interest in that, because if they stop cyber operations, like a certain gigantic country that's trying to destroy them, maybe not be able to as quickly. And since most people do not read Ukrainian, and I only read like a handful of Ukrainian, we can go over to Bleeping Computer, where they talk about a hacker spinning up 1 million virtual servers at the end of the year through the beginning of the year to mine cryptocurrency in support of various horrible things over in that region. And this is great. It's not great. Well, it's great that it was taken down. It's great that there was a joint effort between the Ukrainians and a bunch of other folks to remove them. But this is a thing where, the story talks about how they were able to brute force or just use passwords that they grabbed from password dumps to get into lots of cloud computing environments and just log in and do things. They also mined a bunch of API keys, which is not in any story yet, but it probably will be later this week. So if you got API keys in GitHub or whatever, use all the fancy tools to make those API keys go away, because you really don't want to expose them anywhere. I don't know, guys. Have you heard of anybody impacted by this, or did you get impacted by this? Anybody with the cloud stuff at all?
Not that I know of.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it was a pretty massive attack everywhere. So I have to believe some organizations were absolutely impacted by this. We have some comments. Let me just take a look at comments real quick. Okay, it is just the.
I'm kind of stuck on the point of 1 million virtual servers.
Yeah, I mean, talk about orchestration. I mean, like, actually, I know they're going to throw this guy in jail, but maybe some enterprises could hire them for.
Yeah, like there's some sore skills there for sure.
So this is one of the things that says MFA really, really important, especially on things like cloud environments. Definitely want to keep that going. We're going to move things along because we have a lot to talk about today. Instead of breaking, and breaking news gone, because we don't really nothing breaks the day before usually. It's news in focus now. And we're going to first start off with the CAPTCHA, because like CAPTCHAs are everywhere these days. Again, I'm not sure if anyone else has experienced that. And I'll just let everyone work through the CAPTCHA, click on what you need to click on so that we can get to the next slide. A hint, they're all over them. You should probably just tap on, especially that one in the bottom right. We're going to talk about a pretty bad thing that's been occurring lately, and Glenn's going to talk about it in a minute. But I want to just do a quick focus on, hey, if folks that own Ivanti stuff out there, and again, this is me. Don't blame anybody else on this screen or anybody. It's just me talking about this. Y'all have had a lot of CVEs since 2017. So if anyone's owns Ivanti kit and it feels like all you've done is patch since 2017, you have. It's been a ton of them. Most of them have been pretty significant. A lot above 8, many close to 10 in terms of CVSS score. I have called this the Ivanti debacle, just because it isn't just about what we're going to talk about, but it's about the history. And it isn't just like the volume of CVEs over time. Like you can see, some have been actually really recent, like in the past couple of years, especially the past year. Ivanti's just had a ton of things. You spent far more time patching Ivanti than probably configuring it or making it work better or doing other things like securing other systems within your environment because you've had no time else but to patch Ivanti stuff. I am just suggesting that you may want to use that fact the next time that you have a budget review and maybe a re-up for purchasing review, or just finding maybe a new product that doesn't have like a ton of SysAkev releases as well associated with it. So on this slide, we're seeing that there's been like just a bunch of them over just Kev's lifetime, and Kev's not only been around since 2021. So there's well over a dozen of them since then. And we're doing this all in context of something that we can all start talking about instead of just listening to me, which is a great deep dive that Volexity did. We got a link up for everyone to go see this. And I believe Rapid7 just did a deep dive, a Tucker KB post on this for the Ivanti Connect Secure VPN exploitation. Glenn, do you have some information on this at all that we want to talk about?
Yeah, so it kind of came out last week. I think it was last week. Geez, it's all kind of running together. Maybe it was the end of the previous week. But Volexity had sounds like they were responding to some compromises that, like, in the end ended up being a couple of O-days that were obviously previously unknown, and had a pretty good blog post about it to spread awareness of it. Now, the interesting thing is there's no patch. There's a schedule for patches to come out. That schedule is highly variable, like it's in stages. There is a mitigation. They have an encrypted XML file for mitigation, and really, like right now, the advice is just strictly like, hey, run their integrity checker. So the tool the tool that you trusted, run the tool that the company that makes the tool you trusted that's compromised now, run their tool and trust that tool to tell you if it's compromised or not. And then after that, like, make sure that you're running the mitigations and stuff right now. So kind of like what the takeaways here are: one, like the mitigation does not take care of the problem long term. It also does not identify if something has been already previously exploited. And I think it was late yesterday, they had a post that mentions over 1,000, like 1,700 devices compromised from the way they're scanning, or something to that effect. It's on the screen. So yeah, it's not a great situation. As you mentioned, Ivanti's had a rough go of late. Of course, all edge devices and perimeter devices have had a rough go the last 4 years. But Ivanti's method of, and this is a little bit of a soapbox, but their method of essentially paywalling the details that keep anyone from any other vendors from being able to help more quickly, or being able to identify the issue more quickly. They put all that behind paywalls for their paying customers. And instead of just being public and upfront about it, they try to gate it to control that narrative a bit, and it does not work. And it just creates more heartburn by everyone. And it's a practice that should really be reconsidered.
So that actually reminds me, the putting the advisory behind a login. That was something that happened with Go Anywhere last year, where their advisory was not available to folks, and it's like, oh, that's not great. That's not a great practice.
It doesn't accomplish what, and again, this is another thing that we could do a whole episode over, but it does not accomplish, like, the company is clearly wanting to, like, condense the news cycle and the impact and all that as much as possible. But that is not what happens, because people just talk about the fact that they can't get more information. And, there's also, like, organization and large networks are very complicated, which is an understatement. But when you have maybe remote branches who need to figure out if they're affected because it's 3 a.m. headquarter time, but it's their time, their shift time or whatever, and they can't access the advisory because the headquarters who have maybe the credentials are not awake or at work yet, like, it creates all of these delays that snowball. So there's a lot of, like, really minutia in how this affects response, and it's just in no way helpful.
I agree. Like, just blanket statement, I would love to see vendors move away from putting advisories behind login walls. Like, I get what they're going for, but I just don't think it's getting them what they want.
If you truly care about, like, minimizing the impact, then that's not the way. If you care about minimizing the spread of the news headlines, than maybe it does by like 2 hours.
But then it backfires.
Well, I think that's what I'm really curious about with this story is like, what are we going to hear was the result of this? Because like Ivanti has, you know, Department of Defense support from what I understand. Like it one of their headlines on their website is like military grade warfighter, like security, whatever. And this is like a true ODE, right? So what interesting stories are we going to figure out about this in the next couple of months? Where like the web shell with a unique key, like who were the victims of this? Do you think we'll ever find out like who the victims were, or do you think it'll be brushed over?
It's, you know,
I'm curious. So I'm, you know, it's interesting that you mentioned that too, because I think if I were the military, I'd want everyone to stop putting that on their product, because it's kind of embarrassing. If this is military grade security, then it's really, really embarrassing. And before Glenn goes, I also want to point out to everyone that like, and I have mixed emotions about like when the good guys create exploits and then release them before coordinated vulnerability disclosure and patch windows are able to be put in a it's great. Like we should do that. Like I am a supporter of that as long as we do that right. We don't always do that right. This is a case where like bad guys are doing things and like someone noticed it and like this. So for everyone out there that likes to complain about like the good guys writing POCs and blah, 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 blah. Like this is the bad guys. They're quite capable. Like they can write their own when they want to. They have a whole bunch of them. So like, let's not like be detractors of the folks that are trying to make things better in cyber and trying to work with vendors to do things the right way, because like this thing will happen anyway, even if they didn't exist.
And without
maybe get off your high horses, anti-POC people out there.
And without a POC, how do you know the mitigation works?
Yeah,
right.
Like you already thought that it was secure, and like it happens, right? Like I think it's 2024. We're past the point of being completely mind blown when an ODE or a big compromise happens, but we are to the point of like figuring out or putting eyeballs on how we respond to those things. So like like now you have to trust the mitigation again for the tool that you trusted to be fine to begin with.
I was going to say, I think Volexity is actually one of those really interesting companies to follow because they do memory forensics, like incident response. So they're seeing some really interesting incidents. And I know that they probably have a very large customer base in order to be seeing like, you know, that they were able to identify 1,700 compromised VPN devices worldwide. So they come out with some really interesting research. I wish that they were able to say more. Though the report is pretty solid in my opinion.
That's good.
I also learned that Ivanti has an industrial IoT management platform. So who knows? Maybe we'll see more from Ivanti.
Should I bring up the headline from the Bangor Daily News again? No, right, we won't do that. That's all right. We are going to go back to our regular schedule of programming because we have a bunch more to talk about today. We're checking in with 2024 again. How's it going? And we briefly mentioned one of these last week, but since it just got re-upped in a bunch of the news that I was scanning again, and in the light of the other one, I guess I maybe created the MFA theme after all for this one, but both Mandiant, and I'm not going to pick on either one. I'm going to pick on the SEC. I'm not going to pick on Mandiant. And the SEC had a Twitter kerfuffle. Probably because like you actually have to pay for MFA on Twitter, and like who's going to give that company any money whatsoever, and which means I guess everyone's at risk for account takeovers on X right now, which is a great reason to get off of X as fast as possible. The SEC though like really doesn't have an excuse. Like they either should be off of X or they really should have paid for that, because they tell like around 3,700 companies what to do, and then they don't do what those companies do. So I guess I am curious about people's reaction to like a security organization. I know paying X is that there's a moral thing about that maybe for some people, but the other one, like this is a case where like for I'm not going to ask you if you're on X or if you pay for it, but would you recommend that people who are still on X like take the extra hit and give whoever some money just to make their account less prone to this, or is that up to how important the account is maybe for that particular thing?
I thought that the only thing that people had to pay for was like a certain kind of MFA, like
to downgrade to SMS MFA, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you have to use real MFA, right?
Yeah. Which, so this isn't
You're
really
paying for
that
less security.
problematic for me.
Yeah. Yeah, there's still an option. At least the last of my knowledge, there was still an option, and it was actually the better option. But then the fact that, like, okay, so the Mandiant one was interesting because at least in their statement, it said something about how this was during essentially like a period of transition. I don't know, they were moving accounts or something, or maybe the staff was changing that manages it or something. And it's kind of another stark reminder of how disruptive it is to your security posture when you have mergers, acquisitions, or staff changes, or layoffs, or downsizing, etc. Right? So I'm assuming, you know, something in the fact of maybe who managed it left, whatever. There was some sort of organizational change. They had to remove it. Maybe it was tied to an account, whatever, and it just didn't get re-upped or whatever. And I mean, that's the story I put in my head. But
if you're an organization, how do you only have one SMS number for everybody?
Oh yeah, I mean,
access the Twitter account.
Yeah, that's. But it's just a stark reminder of how, like, when you're doing a change in anything, staff, technology, like I said, merger, M&A, it is so disruptive to your security posture. It is very, very, not in a good way, by the way.
So I'm just gonna do the one more dad mode thing and just like do the MFA thing whenever y'all can, and maybe get off of things that don't have MFA. That's the app-based MFA, the decent good MFA, not the bad MFA.
Well, and also try not to use SMS MFA where you can.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, but it's better than nothing.
Don't use the SIP. Like, I guess that's probably not exactly what, because some people only have SIP numbers, but don't use like an SMS service either. Like, there's SMS relay services out there. There's like combined joint SMS services that are all over the internet, like virtual phone numbers. Try not to use those, because that's probably not a great idea either. Just because that way people can get into those accounts and get into those things. Probably not a great idea to kind of do that. Just use the app. The apps are great. QR codes are fun. It's great. Have a good time. The QR codes are fine. They're adorable. You can put cool stuff in them. I mean, they can be bad, I guess, too, but they're pretty. I mean, they're as bad as a URL, I guess, is what I'm saying. The great interesting story from NBC News the other day. Kevin Collier does some interesting reports every so often, and like this was a fun one to read. The NSA official warns of hackers using AI to perfect their English and phishing schemes, which means you're going to have fewer messages with broken English in them. It's going to look a little bit better. Kimber will be able to predict that it is in fact a phishing message from an AI bot, because she actually is really good at that right now. Not the phishing part, just check with the AI tech, like knowing what AI text is out there. However, we're not looking at this just because of this story. We're not doing like a ooh AI scary warning thing here. We're doing this because there's a great post.
This is it. This is the tweet.
I can't believe that this is still a thing, but if your risk model is noticeably impacted by the adversarial capability of writing an email in the English language, then I'm pretty sure your threat model is already broken. But I'm sure no one here has any real hot opinions of that particular.
I know that Emily does. I'm going to hop in with mine first, and I think that the way that people dunk on how phishing is like this very silly vector but phishing is one of the top ways that people get in. People don't pay attention to emails. People don't pay attention to how things are written. But you know what? This is absolutely going to get people. I don't think that it's a broken threat model. I think that like people just don't have pattern recognition. All right, Emily, go.
Wait, I see Glenn is off mute. Glenn, is there something you want to? I don't want to like step on people.
Oh, I mean, I guess my only thought was more around like, because I don't want to take away. I don't know what you're gonna say, but I don't want to like step on it. But
no, go. I mean,
if a better, well, one, judging by the amount of phishing emails, they're working. It's clearly working. So whatever. Two, if the way to make phishing emails even more effective was to write better English, then the adversaries would also be doing that, like by hiring more native English speakers or utilizing them more or whatever. It's like, so I don't think AI is the cause of this. Now, of course, AI is making it whatever, but so it's
AI,
just
AI is the accelerationism.
It's an accelerant. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Glenn, have you seen emails from Morris? I mean, talk about broken English. I mean,
Well, that's fair.
So the thing that gets me about the broken English thing, there's oh man, there's a couple of things. One is that there are probably folks that we all work with for whom English is not their first language. And so teaching folks to recognize not perfect or stellar English as a sign of like some kind of illegitimate email or communication is a little bit, I don't know, it doesn't feel great to me because I feel like that's not a great way to approach that. Kimber, I also think you're right that folks' pattern recognition is not great. But the thing that I also like, this like post kind of encapsulates it for me, I think. But like, there are other controls around email. And I know they're not perfect, right? Like secure email gateways, DMARC, DKIM, SPF, like all of these things exist to sort of help along the way. Like it's defense in depth for email. There are multiple layers of security. And I just really don't know that I believe that this is going to be the thing that tips phishing into some, or BEC or any other kind of like malicious email into like the next level. Like, I don't think it needs to be because it already kind of is. It's still very effective. Like, it's still a very common like vector to get into an organization. Like, so I just don't get the hype. Like, I understand people are kind of glomming on because AI this and AI that, but I don't necessarily think this is like the game changer that it's being made out to be, because like email security measures still exist. They didn't go away. Like, there's still recognition of like domains and links and emails and bodies and all of these other different things that, again, they're not perfect, but they are still layers of protection. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this isn't going to be the thing that is like going to take phishing to the next level or whatever. Like, I just wholeheartedly disagree with that. And I'm happy to be proven wrong. Well, I mean, I hope I'm not proven wrong, because then that kind of gets into a bad situation. But I feel like it's overdone. Like, phishing is pretty effective. Like, people find ways to make it work. And
I guess what I'm thinking of in particular here is when I was at more the bigger companies, like contracted to bigger companies, one of the things that we would see is that dwell time in the email. So the compromise, like they hang out there, they get to know, they even were down to looking at calendar appointments and crafting malicious like PowerPoint files to go with like meetings that they saw on the calendar. So they would appear to be like sending, oh, here's our meeting agenda from like so-and-so vendor, and it would be a maliciously crafted document. Very, very like sneaky stuff. So I'm wondering if this usage of ChatGPT, like throwing things into OpenAI and kind of like bulk analyzing the emails in somebody's inbox, can come up with like more crafted ways of targeting people. Because if you're feeding things into there and you're saying, okay, now respond to this email message as if you were Andrew Morris, like, do you get a more like well-crafted English response if English isn't your first language? And like it's more in that style of speaking. Like, I don't know if it necessarily like changes the threat vector of like, you need to teach your employees that like the $30,000 gift card is a warning sign. But I think that's the use case that I'm seeing here, is it makes it so I don't have to dwell for that 30 days to learn more about who I'm attacking. I only have to grab the email, analyze it, throw it in there, come up with something.
I really like the perspective on, I know there's a baby there for folks not watching. A baby has appeared. A wild baby has appeared. Yeah, like being able to kind of emulate someone's style of speech, like for spear phishing or things like that. Like, that's also a very interesting way to use it, I think, and probably better than just like blanket.
And like with AI and voice, the ability to copy your voice and do the cyber ransom, which I don't even think we talked about that, which like that was another word that I learned this year, was the cyber ransom situation. But like, where or cyber kidnapping, whatever it was. Sorry, cyber kidnapping.
Yeah, cyber thing.
But like, you know, where you can copy your voice and then call your grandma and be like, I'm being held hostage. And oh man, we've lost Bob. He's
is deep in grandpa land right now.
Another baby has appeared. Another or two.
Bob's in heaven. Bob's in heaven. That's right.
Oh, baby's first webcast.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We could link this to the story about how AI Taylor Swift told people to buy a bunch of Le Creuset cookware, and the Swifties are upsetty spaghetti because a bunch of them got duped by AI Taylor Swift. Like, this is effectively what I see going on here in phishing land, is just like, we don't know what the impact will be yet, so I'm going to assume the absolute worst.
Yeah, the one thing I was thinking from this story is that, and it kind of goes with that deep dive that y'all just did in, you know, not so much the initial phishing message from the outside world, but like, are you going to use this to mine the insides of what people are already putting in their inboxes and their organizational structure and things like that? But I think that I'm going to double down on what Crow said in the Mastodon message. Like, your threat model is all wrong if you're just focusing on the phishing part, because you've got someone sticking around by poking at messages, shoving stuff into open. Like, you've got them doing a lot of extra work to be able to get a really good message out with all those things. And that means that you might not have, like, you might have weaknesses in your defenses in other places besides that incoming phishing mail that you might be worried about so much.
I don't know. People, you got to teach your people that if something feels bad, that they have a resource that they can come to with just saying that, like, something feels off here, and have that, like, assumption be trusted. Because if they're coming to the IT administrator being like, hey, I got this weird email, and it gets brushed off, then you're already screwed.
I also, this might be a controversial opinion, but I feel like having users, I feel like we've been doing phishing prevention and training kind of wrong for years. Like, I think it's just fundamentally broken.
Yes.
I think the exception should be that it gets to a user. Like, I really think that, like, yes, make folks aware, but like, we know that doesn't seem to work very well. And there's some interesting research on like psychological differences between people who click on things and people who don't. Like, there's a whole line of research around that, which I think is fascinating. And so it's like, well, wait a minute, this might not be something we can effectively like train people out of. So how do we bolster that? How do we support around that? And I think it just comes down to like having more of those layers and like hoping that like the education of your users is like the last thing you have to rely on. Like, I think it's still a thing we should do for sure. But I hate that seems to be like, I don't think the awareness thing is working, but
yeah, the way we're doing, I will definitely agree that the way that we're doing awareness isn't working, because one, it's kind of like cruel also, like the way it's done right now. There was like just some story in the news about how like the bonuses were not happening, and then like the phishing email was accept your bonus. Like, who's learning? I would click shit on purpose after getting that, honestly.
Probably same, yeah.
To punish your employer. Okay, everyone get that. Punish your employers.
Yeah, I mean, the entire security of your organization should not come down to the part-time worker who is like Ethel, who's working to supplement her Social Security, non-technical, like just this person who is working to enjoy life or whatever, and she gets an email that takes down like the whole organization. Like, that's not how we need to look at this problem.
Yeah,
we have beat these poor. Okay, well, one more, but we have beat these poor email administrators to death right now.
It's a hard. I was just gonna say it's a really hard problem to solve. Like, SPF, DKIM, DMARC is a good start.
But not everyone still even uses it.
I know.
Yeah, like having something like Proofpoint is awesome.
Yes,
but like beyond that,
100%.
It's so broken. Email is very broken.
All right, we are going to jump into the next one, because I know that Emily has found a really cool nugget in what's now a pretty, this is an old story, but like there's a really new cool nugget that just came out and Emily picked up on it. I want to give her a chance to talk about it.
Yeah, so this is kind of a small piece, right? So Stuxnet, the attack against an Iranian nuclear enrichment facility back in, I don't even remember what year. So there have been multiple reports about it. If you haven't read Kim Zetter's book, Countdown to Zero Day, about Stuxnet, this is fascinating. If you're listening to or watching this podcast and you haven't read that, you absolutely should. But in 2019, Kim Zetter and another journalist wrote a report for, I think it was a Dutch newspaper, where they talked about this kind of like updated developments around someone actually kind of helping get Stuxnet into the facility. And the assumption there, I think, was that it was an Iranian engineer who had done it. This particular article that's come out, there's a couple of them, but it now seems like this was a Dutch person, which kind of maybe changes things. Like I don't know enough about the geopolitics around that. Like maybe folks on here have other thoughts or opinions, but I thought this was sort of interesting and notable that it came out quite a few years later. That it turns out that this was a Dutch citizen who'd helped get it into the facility, allegedly.
I think one for me, it underscores just how the hacking doesn't really have borders. I mean, yes, there are nation states and there's aligned things, but hacking doesn't really have any borders. Even if it did, I don't even know if it did before, but if it did, there's just no borders. Like everyone can just do whatever they want to do for whatever amount of money or for whatever reason. In a way, more now than they have ever been. At least since when I started doing this and I started defending things, it just seems like there's the opportunity and the level, the skill, the ability to level up skill sets, and the ability to just wreak havoc for money or whatever other reason you might want to do it for. You don't really even need an affiliation anymore. You just need a motive at this point.
I cast doubt on the $1 billion, just because that's just like very Austin or Dr. Evil like to say, but exactly. But you know, even if it was half that, it is interesting to think of like how much do kinetic weapons cost and their development and their launch and whatever. So if it's not surprising to me that nation states would be spending this type of money to develop code and exploits, but it is surprising to me that that could be true for this one at that time. But just kind of interesting.
Cool. We're going to kick it going a little bit. This one, we are unfortunately going to spend probably more time than we should, but maybe we might need to table this for the day. I wanted to put it up mostly for at least awareness today. And I'm not digging on the actual firms involved here. This is just, hey, a law firm that deals a lot with just cybersecurity incidents itself had a cybersecurity incident. They are far from the only law firm that deals primarily in cybersecurity incidents or deals with them in a major way from a business standpoint has been impacted by itself by a cybersecurity incident. Every firm is going to be impacted by a cybersecurity incident. So don't get all high and mighty on anybody out there. The problem with this one is like their customers and their customers of their customers are also impacted by this breach. Glenn, since you flagged this initially, because I wasn't able to flag anything for the past couple of days, did you want to maybe break this down a little bit and maybe we'll dig into it a bit more next time around?
Yeah, for now we can just, like you said, for awareness, just to let people know, like if any of these names and companies in this article like sound familiar to you, then you should be, like dig into this a bit on your own. But it's the thought of like in my mind, and we kind of talk about this with like real estate brokers or mortgage companies, like the two things that are always at least previously felt a little bit underutilized from an attacker perspective is mortgage lending companies and law firms. And so like think about what law firms, what they have, the depositions, they have the payouts, they have the oh my goodness, I can't talk today. They have the details that didn't make it public. They have everything, right, on a specific case. And so by going after law firms and exfiltrating that information, that opens up a whole new can of things becoming public that weren't, more victims being affected, of course more lawsuits about the lawsuit, and it really snowballs and can be a really interesting case. So yeah, for now we'll just leave this at awareness, if you recognize the law firm names and stuff, but not great. And $500,000, like that's that's a lot. Maybe a good time to remind folks that if you don't need that data anymore, to get rid of it, delete it, purge it. Like, data retention policies are good.
Cool. I'm just going to mention tool time real quick because I want to get in, because Census is doing some pretty cool stuff. I want them to, I want Emily to get a chance to talk about it. Just with tool time, it's a GitHub link. Keeping up with cyber news and especially incidents that happen is really hard, since we don't have really great coordinated disclosure of incidents across the board, anywhere, in any place, any jurisdiction. This is a neat tool from GitHub. It's a CyberWatch. It's really easy to set up. It's really, really easy to set up, even though that Ezekiel doesn't think it is. And you know why he doesn't like it? It's Python, but that's okay. We have to run Python sometimes.
No.
And we still have to do that throwdown someday, Emily. So this is a great way to keep up with it. And what you get from this is a neat RSS feed that you can plug in anywhere, so you don't need to pay for anything. And you get who the victim is, where it was, when it happened, and a short description. It is processed with OpenAI's ChatGPT to make it a bit more useful. However, it is all curated by hand, so you can run it yourself, do the curation yourself, or just rely on the RSS feed. It is a great way to keep up with what's happening, and you do kind of need to keep up with what's happening, as you can see every week in the rundowns that we actually go do. So now, speaking of shameless self-promotion that I just mentioned, Emily, you got a really neat blog about the Juniper vulnerability that I actually went off all bad on this on Friday. Even I took a hot take on Friday about this on Mastodon, but you have a very nice scientific take on this. So why don't you drop us in this?
We try to keep that at the forefront of what we're doing. We save the hot takes for the show and other places, I guess. But yeah, so last week Juniper posted an advisory about out of bounds write vulnerability in their JWeb like configuration interface. And so we have the link to the blog here. But there were a couple of things that were kind of interesting and stood out to us, I think, about this. We looked at sort of, we did our usual kind of where do these run, how many, how much, et cetera. And one of the things that was sort of interesting is that we tend to see like a heavy presence of these in Asia, actually. Oh, wow. The majority of them are in South Korea. So it's a very different distribution from when we look at like other services or software on the internet. Like it's broken down very differently. And there's graphs about this in the blog, or graphs on this in the blog, where, looking at the top 10 countries where we see this, again, South Korea, Hong Kong, China, India, these are in the top 10, which is a little bit unusual. The US, UK, and Canada are also in the top 10, but that's not too unusual. And I'm really curious, like I don't really have a good hypothesis on why we're seeing that. And so I'm curious if anyone listening or watching has thoughts or ideas. I would love to hear, because we were sort of puzzling over this on Friday when we looked at it. The other thing that I want to call out is a lot of these JWeb interfaces actually will let you know the model number of the associated SRX firewall device. And so we looked at those as well. And it turns out that the most common one that we actually saw running, I won't read the like long alphanumeric string, but it was actually announced as being end of life back in May 2018. So like 3,000 of those hanging out on the internet. So yeah, if you want more details, definitely go check out that blog. And yeah, if you have thoughts or ideas on why, I'm curious if anyone here has theories on why the kind of heavily skewed presence toward Asia for these, but
Juniper has better sales reps in Asia Pacific.
I was going to say their APAC sales reps are like killing the game back in, I don't know, 2019.
Got to be something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, it makes a difference. Like we have an awesome sales organization. All of the folks that are doing sales for GreyNoise do a great job. We don't deploy on-prem, so we're nothing to fear. But how great your sales team is does impact exactly where you're going to, like where they have their strengths is going to impact that. So they either gave a lot of really good inappropriate discounts to the folks in Asia Pacific, or they just have a lot more salespeople focusing a lot more on that region.
Yeah.
I do know they have a presence. I think that's like, I think that's personally really interesting. I would be curious to know if there's a lot of Juniper backbone over there.
Yeah.
Oh, like in telecom space. Oh, that's a great point, Kimber.
That's a good idea.
That's mostly what I'm thinking is like, what is the backbone running on over there? Because I know that it's not primarily Cisco. So
I'm actually going to write that down so I don't lose that.
Yeah, that's a really awesome point, Kimber. And so while Emily is jotting notes down, I will buy some time because she has something very fuzzy to talk about. Like, well, I would bring Bluey back, but my grandson took his Bluey away.
Oh no.
So like we have to talk about something else fuzzy. So what is this other fuzzy thing we have to talk about?
Yeah. So in 2 days from now, on January 18th, one of our researchers is actually hosting a lunch and learn about using fuzzy matching, specifically Levenstein distance, to find phishing domains. So it's kind of a neat, very in-depth sort of nerdy look at this, but I think it's really interesting because it's using a combination of BigQuery, user-defined functions, and essentially edit distance to find domains that are very similar to ones that you might be interested in. So if that sounds like something that you would be interested in, definitely take a look at that. Go sign up for the lunch and learn. It's on January 18th at 1 p.m. Eastern. So.
Yeah. And Emily runs an amazing data science organization, so you're going to learn a lot on this one, folks. You definitely want to attend this. Speaking of something that you might want to attend, I mean, this is just me, but I think we're having a good time with this one. If anyone attended the previous one, we're doing something a little bit riffing of Schoolhouse Rock with GreyNoise Rock. So we will be continuing that theme for tomorrow's webinar. GreyNoise Tags Deep Dive 201. We're going to show you how to write a tag tomorrow. It should be a lot of fun. The graphics are almost done for the whole thing. Like Ashley's biting her nails hearing that now, but been a little busy. So we should have a great time. So definitely attend that tomorrow. We're trying to get Remy or Ron to give 5 minutes to talk about some problematic tags because it's hard to write tags, folks, and you're going to see exactly how that is.
Are we noticing that Bob's like going like Bluey, Schoolhouse Rock, like there's an influence happening here?
Mode.
A little bit, yeah. Or I'm just regressing again, Glenn. Just as I get older, my entertainment is
Benjamin Button.
Yeah. Oh, if only. We have also, I think by now it should be up everywhere. It might be even immediate stuff. We have our second annual report about mass exploitation. This year we call it Decoding 2023, a GreyNoise retrospective on internet exploitation. We talk about a bunch of really horrible, pernicious exploits of 2023 from our unique lens. We got a bunch of stats that for us and for both Kev, we actually have a pretty good Kev section. We talk about how to use the metadata that we provide for all of our tags to defend, and we layer on things like a bunch of MITRE attack information, and we show you how to use it for maybe other frameworks that you use too. So we get a little bit nerdy as well in this report, but I think we give a lot of really good stats, and you should definitely give it a read and drop us a note if you have any questions about it or want to see some of the data in a more collected form than you get to see on the visualizer.
I love our nerdy reports.
Yeah, this is I mean, I tried to keep it a little less nerdy just because people don't like to read all the nerdy stuff sometimes. But y'all
shout out to the design team too for making
it. Oh my gosh, yeah, like this waveform is only a tiny portion of what the design team has contributed to this report. They've done an amazing job throughout this whole thing.
I know. Yeah. This is lovely.
Oh, so professional. Look at us. Wow.
Yeah, and you should see how they carry that theme all the way through. It's just it's gorgeous.
There are about 3 professional people at this company.
It's all the design team.
It's all the design team.
Pretty much the design team. That's it.
If you look at like the most professional part of GreyNoise, it is the design team.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, and actually, speaking of that, like just wait till y'all see the new Stormwatch Home coming soon. Whoa, talk about professional. It's gonna be amazing. Speaking of amazing, we have some tags to help folks do some defense and some catch up what's going on out there. JBoss application server check. I believe that came from a SIFT heads up about stuff out there. We've got, if you want to see who's scanning for Ivanti stuff, it's out there. GitLab. I was actually really worried about. I've been otherwise occupied, as everyone can probably tell by now, with things. So I haven't had a chance to blast things. GitLab had a really nasty CVE a couple of owns last week, and I wanted to blast this out, but I just had no time. I'm glad we got tagged up for this one. Thank you, Glenn and the team. And Think PHP. This thing is everywhere. I'd love to actually could maybe work with Census over the next couple of weeks to see if we can figure out exactly where Think PHP is. Because I can't believe how many places it's in, and it's got some pretty like massive vulnerabilities.
Yeah, that tag was getting hit. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, right away. Like so that
January we caught wind of this. We made the tag. We did some retro pull because we store we keep all the data for all the things because we can because it's not sensitive. And we saw activity before this, and we're going to see this a lot because it's going to be easy for people to get in and do all the things. I beat Glenn despite having grandchildren to deal with and sleepless nights and everything. I beat Glenn to this. Glenn, since I beat you to it on Mastodon, do you want to have a chance to talk about this today now?
Man, this was last week. I can barely remember. It was a shocking spike, right? Like, there's been a lot of talk about Fortinet lately, F5. Like, everyone's looking at everything. But that spike, like, just was wild. Absolutely.
12,000, almost 12,000 unique IP addresses in like one almost 24-hour period, trying to just go and brute force Fortinet SSL VPNs everywhere. So if you don't have your stuff secure out there, MFA, you really might want to go do that.
I mean, it could be inventory, right? Because it started and stopped so fast, but I mean, they were still attempting to actually do the brute force. So nonetheless, it's a predictor of some sort.
I'd be so curious if there were, and maybe this is like a conversation for another time, but like patterns around these IP addresses, like.
Oh, I'm sure.
I mean, I would imagine, right? Like,
there absolutely has to be.
I mean, how about this? How about I promise to get the dump to you, Aiden, and all the team over there, and we can collaborate on maybe this for the next time around.
That'd be fun. Yeah, I'd be fascinated to look at this.
All right, we just promised everybody on the internet that we're going to do something, so we're not going to do it.
We're going to look at 11,000 IP addresses to see what they have in common.
Yes.
One by one.
I mean, I think maybe our two companies have enough information on the IP addresses.
Like, if anybody could do it, we could probably do it. Yeah,
probably, yeah, just a little bit. I've just thrown this is our tag trends that we put up. It's on the observable page that we drop links to every shows, and it's in the show notes, so go there. If you want a quick view of like what's actually happening at any given like couple hour period, this is where to go to see if something new kicks up there, and you can see that the Think PHP thing made it up there and a bunch of other ones. Glenn had a great suggestion to add a couple more into this mix, so I'll be doing that later this week as I get time from these little ones. So just keep a watch for that, because you'll actually get ahead of some things if you can get a good at a glance view. And Kev, unless Todd has screwed us over again. Good, Todd, thanks, Todd. I appreciate that. It has been 6 days since the last Kev release. Two today. Ivanti,
another Ivanti. So
no,
timely.
There were two more,
EPMM, and then
oh my gosh, there were two today. So you sure about that?
Yeah.
Oh my God, are we in 2024 CVEs?
Yes, we are in 2020.
Yeah, there was one last week. The Ivanti 24. Yeah.
Yeah, this is not. So we'll be hard at work trying to get those things tagged as well too, despite the fact that we have a lot of people down with Kid DOS this week, at least today so far. So take a look at those, and I'm going to bring us back from this slide, Hades. And I'm going to close the show with a far lighter question than I usually do, given how brutal today was with all this information that we have out there. So I'm going to start closing with Kimber, apples or oranges? What's better?
Oranges, 100%.
Got a Y? Do you have a Y?
Vitamin C.
You sure there's no vitamin C in apples?
I mean, there probably is, but oranges are classic vitamin C. Orange juice, also delicious, especially when it's pulpy. Come at me. I don't care.
Okay. Okay.
I have a big bowl of oranges right now because winter is citrus season.
Are you pro pulp?
Pro pulp.
Okay. I just throw something up on the screen. It isn't just the Ivanti stuff. What S-Child told us about the Laravel framework. Yeah, not great. This thing has been hit a lot lately, we are probably going to see activity on this without actually having a full tag. Yeah, we may even have a tag for that one, but it's not. It's I might be pronouncing it right, but Laravel has been hitting a lot in the past 6 months too. So if you use that framework, just go hide. Just don't go duck and cover. Emily, apples or oranges?
Oranges if I'm running, apples any other time.
Ooh, like what's different? Is there something about like running in the oxygen production, or just because it's
no, it's just very refreshing.
Water.
Like it's in the summer, it's refreshing, and I bet I don't want to eat an apple while I'm running.
Oh yeah, that sounds yeah. Glenn, apples, oranges?
Oranges, because they top off an old fashioned very nicely.
Oh, good call. Good call.
Wow.
No dry jam for Glenn.
Don't try anything. Well, wait. We have an unusual drop in from the
Honey crisp
Overwatch.
apples.
Depends on the type.
Yes.
Honey crisp apples are amazing, and so are sumo oranges. Those are my top. Can't choose. Okay, you know that's fine. And the Overwatch, I'm not going to say anything bad about the answer because she has control over everything. I'm not going to piss off actually. And I'm going to go with apples just because one of my favorite beverages on the planet, non-alcoholic actually, is apple cider. And it's like I've tried to live in regions where apple cider has been an amazing thing, and I do now. So I just think that they better just because of the cider part of it. Cool. So we actually managed to stay in time, which is awesome today. We will go in deeper for some of the subjects next time. I want to thank all my co-hosts for the amazing discussion today. I want to thank my grandson for actually being quiet for the last half of the show so I could hold him while I was doing the show. And we will catch everybody next week on Stormwatch. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye.
Hey.